Chosen one, anchor your spirit to every word I'm about to speak. That restlessness you have been carrying, the one that does not feel like sadness, but does not feel like peace either. I need you to sit with it for just a moment longer, because I am about to tell you exactly what it means. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He knows what God scheduled to begin tonight. It all shifts tonight. The confusion, the stagnation, the sense that you have been living someone else's life in someone else's season, it ends here. But understand this clearly, because this is the part that changes everything. It is not ending because time finally ran out. It is ending because of what you have done in the dark, when no one was watching, when you had every reason to fall apart, and you did not. Think back to that moment this week, when everything in you wanted to respond, to fight back, to defend yourself, to chase what was leaving, and you did not. You went quiet instead. You sat in that discomfort, and you let it pass without forcing your hand. You thought that was weakness. You thought that was you losing ground. That was not weakness. That was the moment heaven moved on your behalf. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not deliver this to you. God did. This is a divine appointment that was written before the foundations of the earth were laid, and you are standing at a threshold right now that most people never recognize until it is already behind them. Do not leave this message early. Your future self, the one standing on the other side of this reset, is asking you to stay. Because if you walk away now, you walk away before the verdict is read. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the divine decree that confirms your reset has already been authorized by heaven. I am going to walk you through the exact spiritual audit that reveals where you gained ground this week, even when you felt like you were losing everything. And at the end of this message, we are going to seal this new beginning with a declaration that closes every door the enemy has been using to drag you back into who you used to be. Do not scroll past this. The version of you that has been on its knees asking God for a sign, this is the sign. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere around you has not just been still, it has been thick, heavy in a way that you cannot explain to anyone around you because the words do not exist for it yet. Maybe you sat in a room full of people this week and felt completely alone, not because you were unloved, but because something inside you has already outgrown the version of your life that surrounds you. Or maybe you found yourself standing in front of a mirror, staring at your own face, feeling like the person looking back at you is on the edge of something enormous, but you cannot see what is on the other side of it. Or maybe it was 3 a.m, completely silent, and a wave of grief moved through you for a life you have not even lost yet. The grief of a person standing at a closing door, not sure if walking through it means freedom or starting over from nothing. You feel suspended, like you are caught between two versions of yourself and neither one fits anymore. And in that suspension, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie into the silence. He has been telling you that the reason everything feels unresolved is because you are the problem. He has been replaying moments from this past season, the times you backed down, the times you went quiet, the times you did not show up the way you planned to, and he has been building a case. His argument is this: you had your chance, you wasted it, and now the reset you are praying for is not coming because you are the reason it keeps getting delayed. That is the lie, and I need you to hear it named out loud so you can recognize it and reject it. Because here is what the scripture actually says about this moment. Lamentations 3:22-23 says, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning." Listen to that promise. New every morning. Not new after you perform correctly. not new after you fix what broke, new every morning regardless of what the previous day looked like. God does not operate on a merit system that disqualifies you every time you fall short. He operates on a covenant that is renewed before you even open your eyes. The enemy wants you to believe this season is a punishment for your past. He wants you to interpret every delay, every silence, every moment of suspension as evidence that you have been set aside. But that is a deception. You have not been set aside. You have been set apart. The heaviness you have been carrying is not the weight of consequences, it is the weight of transition. It is what it feels like when God is dismantling everything that was built on the wrong foundation, so that what He is about to build can actually hold the weight of your destiny. You think those moments when you went quiet were setbacks. You think the silence was surrender. But let me reframe your entire reality right now. That silence was not a retreat. It was a repositioning. Every time you chose restraint over reaction this week, you were not losing. You were being calibrated. God was adjusting your posture, aligning your spirit, preparing the vessel before He poured in what cannot be contained in who you used to be. Your whole life is not being disrupted tonight. It is being reset. And there is a difference. Disruption takes something from you. A reset restores everything that was stolen and rebuilds it on ground that cannot be shaken. Tonight is not the end of your story. Tonight is the moment the real one begins. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let me show you what this reset actually looks like from the inside, because most people expect breakthrough to feel like a door flying open, a grand theatrical unveiling. They expect fireworks, a blazing sky lit up with divine affirmation, an undeniable fanfare announcing their arrival into a new season. They expect the moment to announce itself with a trumpet blast and a dramatic parting of the clouds, leaving no room for doubt or questioning. But that is not how God moves in the life of someone He is genuinely repositioning, not when He is crafting something enduring and deeply rooted. He moves in the ordinary, in the gentle unfolding of grace, in the quiet whispers of the Spirit that often go unnoticed by those seeking grand spectacles. He moves in the moments that look, from the outside, like absolutely nothing is happening, like the silent, unseen work of a seed breaking open in the dark earth, full of potential but devoid of visible drama. It's in these moments, often disguised in the mundane, that heaven is most actively at work, recalibrating, reinforcing, and redirecting your path. Think about the story of Elijah, a titan of faith, a prophet whose very name meant, "My God is Yahweh," or, after one of the greatest demonstrations of divine power in all of Scripture, after calling down fire from heaven that consumed not only the sacrifice, but the stones and water, after dismantling the prophets of Baal in a victory that echoed through the ages, Elijah, this mighty man of God, collapsed under a broom tree and told God he was finished. He was utterly exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. He was afraid, fleeing from the threats of Jezebel, his spirit heavy with a weariness that even the fresh scent of miraculous fire could not dispel. He had just witnessed the truly miraculous, a tangible display of God's unmatched sovereignty, and yet he still could not outrun his own profound depletion, his soul crying out for refuge in the wilderness. And what did God do in response to his prophet's raw, human cry of despair? He did not send another fire to reinvigorate his spirit with more awe. He did not send a thundering voice from the heavens to scold him for his fear or remind him of his recent triumph. No, in his profound tenderness and understanding, God sent an angel with simple bread and a jar of water. He let Elijah sleep, allowing his weary body and spirit the profound healing of deep rest. He said, "Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." The divine reset for Elijah did not look like another victory parade or a new assignment delivered with pomp and circumstance. It looked like rest, quiet nourishment, and the grace of receiving what he did not have the strength to go get on his own. It was a profound act of replenishing before sending, a testament to God's care for our humanity, even amidst our divine calling. And this is where you have to be brutally honest with yourself, looking inward without judgment, because the version of you that has arrived at this pivotal moment has been running on empty, perhaps for far longer than you have ever dared to admit to anyone, including yourself. You have been performing strength, putting on a brave face, projecting an image of resilience in rooms where you were quietly, often imperceptibly dismantling on the inside. Like a grand old building whose facade remains impressive while its foundations are cracking, you've maintained an outward appearance of fortitude. You have been saying, "I am fine," with a practiced smile, when what you actually meant, deep down in the quiet chambers of your soul, was something far more precarious. "I am still standing against all odds, and I am not entirely sure why, how, or by whose grace, but I have not stopped yet." That tenacious persistence, that unwavering refusal to lie down and let the crushing weight of this challenging season bury you completely, that unyielding grip on hope, even when hope felt like a fragile thread, that, my friend, is not mere stubbornness. That is not just a force of will. That is covenant endurance. That is the very fiber of spiritual grit, a divinely imparted resilience forged in the fires of faithfulness. And God, the Alpha and the Omega, sees every single stride of it, every tear shed in secret, every quiet prayer whispered in the dark, every heroic act of simply putting one foot in front of the other. He sees the battle fought within, even when no outward scars are visible. But here is where it goes deeper, where the truth penetrates layers of expectation, and this is the part that most people miss when they are waiting for their reset, often looking for external signs while the internal landscape has already shifted. The spiritual ground beneath your feet is already different. The tectonic plates of your destiny have begun to shift, reshaping the very foundation you stand upon. You just cannot feel it yet, because your spiritual muscles are still conditioned, still walking and moving as if it were the same old terrain, the familiar landscape of struggle and striving. Your spiritual posture is still braced for the fight that has already been decided in the heavenly realms, still tensed against blows that will never land. You are still carrying the heavy armor, the weighty shields and swords, for a battle that heaven has already concluded, a victory declared and settled. And the reason the atmosphere around you has felt so profoundly unusual, so heavy and thick and hard to name, like a palpable density in the air, is precisely because you are standing in the sacred, liminal transition space between what was and what is, between the old chapter and the new, between the caterpillar and the butterfly. And that space, that sacred threshold, has its own particular, profound silence. It is not an empty silence, not a void, but a silence pregnant with expectation, thrumming with unseen activity. It is the silence of the tomb before the stone moved, before the light broke through the darkness. It was not an empty silence, a mere absence of noise. It was the most loaded, significant, and transformative silence in human history, humming with resurrection power. And the disciples, burdened by their grief and confusion, could not feel or comprehend what was truly happening inside of it. They were outside, lost in sorrow, despairing at what they perceived as the definitive end, not knowing that the very thing they thought had ended forever, consumed by death, was in the profound process of its greatest, most glorious beginning. You are in that silence right now, a crucible of transformation where the old gives way to the radically new. And what is coming next, the unveiling of this new season, will likely surprise you in its form and its arrival, because God's ways always transcend and often confound our human expectations. Because the breakthrough you have been asking God for, the answer to your heartfelt prayers, is not going to come in the precise form you have been praying for, in the neat package you've envisioned. And I need you to sit with that truth, to let it sink into your spirit without immediately shutting down, without allowing disappointment to take root. Because this is not a word of disappointment or denial. This is a word of divine reorientation, a spiritual realignment. When Jabez, a man whose very name meant sorrow, prayed, he did not ask God to merely fix his agonizing circumstances, to simply alleviate his pain or mend what was broken. No, his prayer was audacious, rooted in a deeper understanding of God's character. He asked God to enlarge his territory, to expand his influence, his capacity, and his sphere of blessing beyond the restrictive borders that had been assigned to him by someone else's bitter declaration over his life at birth. He asked for more, not just relief from less. And the scripture unequivocally says God granted him what he requested. Not eventually, after a lengthy period of contemplation. Not after further review or a committee meeting in heaven. God granted it, a swift and powerful fulfillment of a faith-filled, expansive prayer. You have been praying for relief, for the burden to be lifted, for the struggle to cease, when God, in his infinite wisdom and foresight, has been meticulously preparing to give you expansion. You have been asking him to remove the pressure, to take away the heat from the crucible, when the pressure, the very intensity of the season you're in, is the precise process he is using to compress what is ordinary, common, and superficial in you, and bring to the surface what is rare, precious, and eternally valuable. Think of the earth's raw materials. Coal does not become a diamond by being released from pressure, by being allowed to relax into its original mundane form. It becomes a diamond, transformed into unparalleled beauty and strength, precisely because the pressure holds, because the immense force is sustained over time, forging something infinitely more valuable. And you, my friend, you have held. You have endured the sustained pressure, the relentless heat, and in that steadfastness, a diamond is being formed within you, a strength and brilliance that will soon be revealed. This brings us to something profound that has been operating beneath the surface of everything you have been feeling, a silent, almost imperceptible force shaping your reality, and it is time to name it directly, to bring it into the light. Because naming it is the crucial beginning of your authority over it, the first step towards dismantling its power. There is an agreement you unknowingly made with a version of yourself that was painstakingly formed in pain, not maliciously, not with any conscious intent to self-sabotage, but somewhere in the deep, quiet accumulation of disappointments, of doors that closed unexpectedly and painfully, of people who left your life, sometimes without explanation, of promises that did not land the way you fervently believed they would. Somewhere in that crucible of hurt, you made a quiet, almost invisible agreement with your soul. The agreement sounded on the surface like profound wisdom. It sounded like intelligent self-protection, a shield against further wounding. It said, "Do not expect too much, for disappointment is inevitable." It cautioned, "Do not open too wide, lest you become vulnerable." It whispered, Do not let your hope run too far ahead of your tangible evidence, for that way lies heartbreak. It advised, keep your faith at a safe, cautious distance from your full, unrestrained belief, so that if this too does not work, if this breakthrough never materializes, it does not completely shatter what fragile pieces are left of you. This internal contract, born of past wounds and protective instincts, became a self-imposed boundary. That agreement, that quiet, protective vow you made to yourself, has been the true ceiling over your life. Not the external enemy, though unseen forces may have sought to oppress. Not the weight of your past, though its shadows may linger. Not even the people who underestimated you or the opportunities that were withheld. That internal contract of managed expectation, that deeply ingrained reflex to limit your potential for pain, is the very thing that has been capping, restricting, and containing what heaven is desperately trying to pour into your life. An overflowing measure of grace and abundance, because God, in His infinite generosity, cannot fully fill a vessel that has already, in its deepest convictions, decided and defined how much it is allowed to receive, how much it is safe to contain. You have, perhaps unwittingly, designed a container for scarcity when heaven offers an ocean of plenty. In just a moment, we are going to confront the final, most profound layer, the one that sits beneath even that self-imposed agreement, the one most people never reach because they stop here, accepting their limitations. But stay with me, stay present, stay open, because what comes next is the revelation, the part that utterly breaks the cycle completely and sets you free to soar. Consider the prophet Isaiah, a monumental figure in Scripture. He carried the powerful word of the Lord for decades, speaking truth to power, delivering divine messages, before the full, overwhelming weight of his ultimate calling was truly activated, fully awakened. He had heard God's voice in private communion. He had spoken for God with prophetic authority. He had stood before kings and delivered divine indictments, unflinching in his sacred duty. And yet, in Isaiah chapter 6, in the momentous year that King Uzziah died, a year of significant political and spiritual transition, he saw the Lord. Not for the first time in his life, for he was already a prophet, but perhaps for the very first time, at full, unvarnished, blinding revelation, in his utter holiness and majesty. And his immediate, visceral response was not confidence, not a surge of self-assuredness or readiness. It was a complete, shattering collapse. He cried out, "Woe is me, for I am undone, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." Because the closer you get to the full, blazing dimension of your divine calling, the more profoundly aware you become of every place inside yourself that still does not feel worthy of it, every unpurified corner, every perceived inadequacy. And that acute awareness, if you misread it, if you interpret it through the lens of human imperfection, will feel like an absolute, undeniable disqualification. But I tell you, it is not disqualification. It is the necessary holy refinement that precisely precedes the commissioning. It is the coal in the fire, heating and purging before the lips are touched and cleansed for divine speech. It is the breaking that happens, the shattering of the old self, right before the sending, right before the unleashing of your true purpose. And you too have been misreading it. You have been interpreting the profound weight of your own preparation, the intense pressure, the deep internal work, as evidence that you are not yet ready, that you are still lacking the necessary qualifications. But readiness in the kingdom of heaven does not feel like human confidence, not like a puffed-up certainty of your own abilities. It feels like absolute, radical surrender. It feels like the moment you stop frantically trying to be qualified, stop striving to earn your place, and you simply profoundly say, with an open heart and outstretched hands, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Isaiah did not become fully ready, feeling perfectly capable, and then volunteer himself for service. He was touched by the live coal, purified by the encounter with God's holiness, and then he became willing, commissioned with power. The readiness, the transformation, came directly through the encounter, through the divine touch, not as a prerequisite before it. Here is what most people never truly realize about the season they are in right now, this period of waiting, of quiet expectation. The waiting is not neutral. It is not a passive void, a mere pause in the action. The waiting is, in fact, an active, dynamic spiritual environment, a fertile ground for profound internal growth. And what you do, what you learn, how you respond inside this waiting period fundamentally determines the shape, the strength, and the sustainability of what you step into when this season of preparation is finally over. Think of Abraham, the father of faith, who waited 25 long years for the promise of a son, for the fulfillment of God's covenant. But that waiting was far from empty. In the crucible of those 2.5 decades, he learned profound lessons. He learned to hear God's voice in increasingly impossible circumstances, when every natural indicator screamed doubt. He learned to move, to obey, to leave his homeland, when every logical impulse said, stay. He learned, perhaps most crucially, that the covenant and its ultimate fulfillment were not dependent on his own human ability to produce it, to make it happen, but solely on God's unwavering faithfulness. And when the promise finally arrived, when Isaac was born, Abraham was not the same man who had first received the initial word. He was someone who had been deeply formed, refined, and matured by the waiting into the kind of faith, the kind of character that could actually steward the fulfillment, the monumental blessing, without destroying it through immaturity or pride. You are not merely waiting for your breakthrough to arrive. You are actively being formed, shaped, and prepared into the person who can truly carry that breakthrough without losing themselves inside it, without being overwhelmed or undone by its weight and demands. Because breakthrough without formation, without the preceding crucible of character development, is just a new set of problems, often more complex and challenging, operating at a higher, more public level. It is akin to putting a powerful engine in a fragile car. The vehicle will simply shatter under the increased force. And this leads us to the real turning point, the pivotal place where everything you have just received, every insight and revelation, either becomes true, transformative spiritual experience, or merely remains information. Intellectual knowledge you carry without it ever fundamentally changing you, without it ever truly altering the trajectory of your life. Because there is a habit, a subtle, ingrained pattern of behavior, not a sin, not a deep wound, not an overt enemy assignment, just a habit that has been quietly, consistently, and without much drama, feeding your delay. And it is this: you have been processing your calling, your divine assignments, your deepest convictions, in private, in the sanctity of your prayer closet, in the intimate space between you and God, while simultaneously minimizing it in public. You have been agreeing with God wholeheartedly in the sacred quiet of your prayer space, feeling the resonance of His truth, and then, in the presence of the very people and platforms He is trying to send you to, you subtly shrink back. Not out of overt fear, not exactly, but out of something far more insidious, more deeply ingrained. Out of a deeply trained reflex that whispers, "Let me wait until I have more concrete, undeniable evidence, more tangible proof, before I move like I truly believe this, before I fully step into this truth." But faith, true, biblical faith, was never designed to wait for evidence. Faith, in its very essence, is the evidence. The book of Hebrews 11, the great chapter of faith, calls it the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Substance, evidence. These are not feelings or ethereal wishes. They are concrete realities. That means your faith is not a fleeting feeling you are waiting to feel, a surge of emotion you hope will arrive to propel you forward. It is a profound, unshakable reality you are consciously choosing to walk in, to live by, before the visible, tangible world catches up to the invisible, spiritual truth. And every single time you delay movement, every instance you hold back from stepping forward, because you do not yet feel absolutely certain, because the visible proof isn't glaringly obvious, you are, in essence, subtly telling God that His word, His promise, His divine authorization is not quite enough without your comfort, your certainty, your personal feeling of preparedness attached to it. Now, here is the part you probably did not see coming, the deep, surprising truth that penetrates to the core of your being, and it is the part that profoundly changes everything, stripping away all previous assumptions. The thing that has been blocking you, that silent, persistent impediment to your breakthrough, is not what you think. It is not solely the enemy, though he has certainly been active, seeking to discourage and distract. It is not your past, though it has undoubtedly left its indelible marks and lessons. It is not even the people who underestimated you, whose words may have wounded, or the doors that closed, seemingly before you were ready to walk through them, leaving you stranded. No, the most profound thing that has been blocking you, holding you back from your next season of abundance, is your unprocessed grief over who you had to become to survive a season you were never, ever supposed to stay in indefinitely. You painstakingly built an identity around endurance, around the sheer grit of getting through, around carrying every burden alone, around not needing what you actually desperately needed from God and from others. And that identity, that survivor persona, kept you alive, functioning and moving forward when you needed it to. It was a miraculous grace for the season it was forged in. It was not wrong for the time it was built, for the wilderness you traversed. But you have been unconsciously carrying that survival identity, that heavy cloak of self-reliance, into a season it was never designed for, a season of divine provision and thriving. And it is too heavy, too restrictive, too tight around your spirit. It was built for mere survival, for existing in scarcity, not for the abundant, expansive and overflowing life that is already on its way, already authorized by heaven. You have to actively grieve the survivor version of yourself, to honor its journey, and then lovingly release it, in order to truly receive the thriving version of yourself that God is calling forth. You have to let that arduous chapter of intense endurance close with honor, with gratitude for its lessons, with love for the strength it forged, and with full conscious acknowledgement of what it cost you, the toll it took on your spirit, your body, and your emotions. And then, with intentionality and grace, you have to set it down. Not because that survivor identity was bad or flawed, but because God is not calling you to merely survive anymore. He is calling you to live, truly live, fully, with every fiber of your being, openly, without reservation or protection, with both hands extended to receive the good gifts He pours out, and with your heart no longer braced, no longer shielded, for the worst. He is calling you into the joy, the peace, and the abundant life that Jesus promised. And once that profound internal shift occurs, once that sacred permission is granted to yourself, once you intentionally lay down the old identity and embrace the new, everything else around you begins to unlock. The relationships in your life begin to reflect the new covenant, aligning with a healthier, more reciprocal dynamic. The opportunities that arise begin to perfectly align with the new, thriving identity you have stepped into. Your prophetic voice gets clearer, resonating with an undeniable authority. The path ahead gets straighter, less fraught with detours and unnecessary struggles. Not because your external circumstances miraculously became perfect overnight, not because every challenge vanished, but because the person walking through them, the authentic, unburdened you, finally stopped apologizing for taking up the sacred, divinely appointed space in their own magnificent destiny. This is your moment. Not the one you are waiting for in the distant future, not the one you are hoping for tomorrow. This one. Right now, in the middle of hearing this message, something profound is shifting, recalibrating, and rearranging in the very atmosphere around you, and the only question left is whether you are going to wholeheartedly receive it, to open your spirit to it, or whether you are going to wait until you feel more prepared, more certain, more comfortable to truly believe it and step into it. Place your hand on your heart right now and declare this with me. I release the agreement I made with my own limitation. I release the grief I have been carrying over who I had to become to survive. I release every label placed on me by people who could not see what heaven sees. I am not delayed. I am not disqualified. I am not behind. I am exactly where God positioned me to be for this exact moment of breakthrough. I step out of survival and into the fullness of what I was created to carry. I receive the expansion. I receive the commissioning. I receive the reset that heaven has already authorized over my life. I am chosen. I am prepared. I am ready. And I walk forward from this moment as someone who knows that their best chapter is not the one they survived. It is the one they are about to live. If this message reached the place in you that needed it most, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who has been carrying that same unnamed heaviness, someone who is standing at their own threshold tonight and needs to know what they are actually standing in. Leave a word in the comments about what shifted in your spirit. The community here is not accidental. God placed you in it because iron sharpens iron, and your testimony of this moment may be the exact confirmation someone else is waiting on to take their first step forward. You belong here, and your voice in this space matters.